Hey everyone, welcome back to the Building Bigger Lives podcast. I'm Michael Regan, along with my fabulous co-host, Catherine Peterson. And as always, we like to mix it up and invite a guest from time to time into the podcast. And today you are going to enjoy the gentleman we are bringing in from South Texas, Joe Bob Thompson, a longtime friend, former client, and just a all-around ball of energy in the housing industry, is going to be able to share some stories with us that I think you're really going to enjoy, because this is a guy who's had leadership experiences throughout his life, and I'm looking forward to unpacking a few of those with him. But before we set him up too much further, live from the Movement Mortgage Studios outside of Austin, Texas, Dripping Springs, I believe, it's Joe Thompson.
Thank you very much, Coach. I appreciate that. And am I the first guest on here that has two first names?
Well, we didn't want to make it so obvious, but yes, Joe, you are the Joe Bob Thompson first guest with two names.
Yeah. Well, that's been a name that has brought me some trouble when I was younger, but many of opportunities in life as well. It's kind of like it's been a great journey having that name, and it's kind of hard to forget, right? So I wear it with pride, and it's been a lot of fun having that name. Like my mom is so like every time I tell her a story about what that name has brought me, it brings a smile to her face.
Well, I'm sure the audience is smiling with you, and it's good to have you here today. You know, you're picking a spot that I think is a wonderful spot to pick up, because I think most folks know you if they click the link because they're like, "Oh, I know Joe. He's a guy that I've heard or listened to or been in a room with," but they may not know the backstory. And you mentioned, the story of mom when you're younger. Tell us a little bit about, if we had met Joe, the 10-year-old, what was life like when you were growing up? In that season of life? What were some of the influences in your life that you remember?
Yeah, for sure. Well, if you saw me if I was 10, I had a mullet and a blue jean jacket with buttons, and I was wearing that to the fifth grade. You should see my fifth grade class favorite photo in the yearbook. It's pretty embarrassing. Yeah, I grew up in rural America, Northeast Texas, small blue collar town. Everybody there either worked at the school or the steel mill. Like that was like basically where you worked. And even though it was a small rural town, having a name like Joe Bob was still pretty unique. And so, kids would, believe it or not, even at that age, would make fun of my name. And that got me into like some fights. So in the fifth grade, I was in fights all the time. Believe it or not, like constantly, like having to defend my name all the time. And it really taught me to have thick skin, to be able to take that level of like verbal abuse at a young age. You had thick skin, had to defend myself. And then over time, as I started to mature and I was like one of the bigger guys in my grade, suddenly they don't say so many things about your name. Suddenly they respected me a little more. But yeah, 10-year-old Joe Bob was a good student. But just like I felt like I'm a student of the game today in the mortgage business, but definitely small town, country bumpkin, 3,000 people in my whole hometown. And my mom was a very big influence in my life, still is. She's probably like one of my best friends to this day. So if you ever hear me with a deep laugh, like that is my mom coming out. Even to this day, we hang out and we're the two that is like in the theater laughing so loud that everyone wishes we would shut up. So she's been such a great influence in my life, positive influence. And I think that's where a lot of my positivity comes from is I love to surround myself with positive, energetic, upbeat people because it
Mm.
brings out the best in me. And I think that's just being around my mom. And then I had the benefit of having two dads. My parents were split up. My stepdad is who really I lived with most of my life, and I had my dad just about an hour away. But my stepdad worked as an electrician, master electrician. He would get up before I would wake up in the morning, and he would come home late at night. And as exhausted as he was, working with his bare hands, always had smashed knuckles coming home. He'd come through that door, and every day he'd come to the door, he would, with a big smile, full of energy. Sometimes he would do this stupid little dance to make me laugh as a kid coming home from the long day working in hot attics, running conduit. And so just having that type of positive influence in my life about, no matter how tired you are, exhausted you are, what's your day look like, there's still an opportunity to be energetic and positive. and bring out the best in others, just like they were bringing out the best in me after a long day.
I've got to imagine, Joe, if we could ring up Kelly, she'd tell me, and that's Joe to this day. You're raising three beautiful kids. In fact, you've got a son of your own. I don't know what it felt like now being the father of a 10-year-old who maybe went through the season you just described with a blue jean jacket and getting in fights, and now you're the dad of that guy. But I'll bet Kelly would tell me, yeah, but Joe just oozes positivity. He's always finding a way to take those moments and see the bright side of them. That just feels like you.
Yeah, I really, like negativity is my kryptonite, coach.
Mm,
Even with my team today, and I think whenever I interview someone to consider joining my team, I will let them know that very thing up front that, if someone is what I call, an Eeyore, Winnie the Pooh, like an Eeyore, they're not going to work well on my team, just because my positivity will push them out. Throughout my 22-year career in the industry and throughout building teams that entire time, it's been that way, is that I
mm,
refuse to just have any type of negativity on my team. Now, negativity is not like constructive criticism, right? Like, you're going to have issues in this business. This business is designed to overcome issues. That's just the nature of the mortgage business. But bring a solution along with it. It can't always just be negative. And that's what I mean by the negativity piece of that. So, what I do is that this is such a tough business, it's stressful, is that I do want to try to make it fun and be as positive as I possibly can intentionally, just because it could be the opportunity to bring out the best of somebody. I learned this obviously, Daniel Harkavy, your boss, our mentor, had one of the best analogies about how
mm,
everyone has a light switch, like right here, right? And as you approach them, you have two options. You can either switch that light switch on and bring out the best in them, or you can shut it down. And that always really resonated with me. And I think about that on a daily basis, if you can believe that, about how I'm trying to just flip light switches on with almost everyone I come in contact with. And in doing so, if you make somebody feel good about themselves, they're generally going to like you and want to be around you in return. I mean, it's a simple formula in life. But I always give Coach Harkavy credit for that simple analogy that stuck with me.
So I love your positivity and got to see that when we were together at an event. But there are times, right, when someone on your team might have a moment that they're down, that they're having a tough week, that they're just worn down by this market that we've had for the last few years. So what do you do to kind of turn that light switch on for them?
Find something in them that is a strength. Because there are times where we all have that time where we're just like nothing's going right. The world is crumbling around us. You can't get into a groove. You're in a slump. But we forget sometimes that there's those strengths that are hiding out somewhere, and you just need somebody to just remind you that, hey, like, yeah, like it isn't going that well right now, but look at the positives in this situation. The positive is that you're RA, and then go into something that is very positive about them, that's personal to them, to remind them, like, yeah, like I did have success at one point in time because of that particular strength that I had, and just make it real personal. But you can't do that, obviously, if you don't know your team. If there's no relationship with your team, if you don't know them personally, if you haven't spent time with them, it's impossible to have that type of conversation, because then it just falls on deaf ears because it's meaningless. But as a leader that has been through the Building Champions program and has been taught how to have great relationships with your teammates, that's just part of the process, and getting to know them on the personal side, getting to know them, and being a better listener than a speaker. And in doing so, you do learn a lot about your teammates. And in that process, that's where it is, Catherine, is to really just breathe life into them. And sometimes that's hard for me too, is, I have bad days also. And so I'm having a bad day and I get that call. And I remember, once again, Coach Harkavy talking about finding that sixth gear. Like, it's the world around yourself may be crumbling, but you got to find that sixth gear when you come home to your wife and kids, when you get that call from a teammate that needs your lift. Like, our role is to be that catalyst to bring out the best in our teams, and the best leaders find ways to do that.
Joe, when I hear you talk about bringing out that strength and finding that strength in someone because you have that relationship, I'm rewinding the tape a little bit and thinking somewhere back, maybe in the high school era, or maybe at Rice when you're playing football and you're on that field, you've got teammates there who are going through those experiences. You have coaches in your life who have to identify that. Were those things that were just natural to you, or were you picking those up along the way through some of those life experiences? I mean, you referenced Daniel at Building Champions. That's later in life, but I'm guessing the young version of you, there were some seeds of that somewhere along the way.
A lot of that was playing football and being part of a football team beginning when I was 12 years old. You learn the unique part about football is that it takes all walks of life to have a really good team. Like, basketball, it's five guys, right? In football, you've got like what I call the big uglies down there, offensive line, defensive line. Then you got the diva receivers, you got the arrogant quarterbacks. Like it just takes all walks to make that happen. So you naturally are in there with a very diverse crowd having to make all that work. And the best coaches I was around in that time that were big influences, football coaches, would find ways to bring us together off the field to build relationships, because relationships obviously they happen in the trenches on the field, but off the field, what can you do to really strengthen the bond of your team? And so that's where I encourage people like to all like there's always if there's a rift between your teams or if things aren't gelling, is find ways to get out of the office and get together away from the field. I remember one time our at Rice, we were having some struggles as a team, and our coach kind of just pulled us out of a meeting, and it had nothing to do with football. We weren't like watching film, talking strategy, no playbooks. And we all just got up and spoke about personal challenges in our life. And it kind of just made it humanized us all. And we all saw each other not as position players, but as the history of the individual, the emotional side of it. And ever since that meeting happened, like we really immediately gelled. So those events in my life have taught me about successful team building and ways to do that. And it's all about the team gelling, bring them together, getting to know them. But more than anything is bringing them together in person, away from the office. And I'm actually currently planning that very thing today for some key team members. And that's why it's fresh on my mind.
Captain, that's ironic because you and I think, recently just talked about the value of pulling your team away for a retreat. So
Mhm.
you're probably resonating with a lot of what Joe's just riffing on.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. It's good to separate and have a different environment. So, and what I'm kind of curious about is you've had a lot of people influence you over the years, but was there a moment looking back that kind of changed your trajectory as a leader? Because you are a leader today in your company and in the industry. So, was there a moment that you were like, okay, here's my two paths. I'm going to take this path?
I could say one of the things that was more impactful to me was kind of stepping out of my comfort zone at a time where I was called up, and it wasn't even for a paid opportunity. But a mentor of mine, a former boss of mine, a guy named Bill Dolly, who actually was a professional baseball player, he encouraged me to get involved in the Houston Mortgage Bankers Association. And within like 18 months, they were like, hey, what do you think about being president of this organization? And at the time, I would have been the youngest president in the entire, 60-year history of this organization. And I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. He's like, well, you're right for it. And I was like, well, let's give it a shot. But in doing so, I had to run board meetings every month with people that were way older than me, way more experienced. I had to get in front of these monthly galas, where there was, 100, 150 people there at these luncheons with guest speakers that I introduced. And I have to like, I want to say entertain the crowd, but Michael, you know me, I probably did. But in doing that, one of the biggest things for me was like I had to pray in public for the first time. And it was like trembling to do that. And that was a great experience to come through. But where I'm going with that, Catherine, is that I stepped into something that I didn't think I could be successful at. I was given the opportunity, I was encouraged. I had that saboteur in my mind saying that you shouldn't do this. You could embarrass yourself. You're going to be in front of all these people. You have no idea how to run a board meeting. All those things are going through my mind, but I just, leaned into fear, just stepped into the role. And because of that, and it's after that year experience, I was like, that was a lot of fun. I learned so much, and it gives you that confidence moving forward to like, hey, if I can do that, I can do a lot more within this role back at work. So my encouragement will be to others where when that opportunity comes and you doubt yourself, step into it, do your work, figure it out, and you'll surprise yourself if you do that.
Joe, one of the things I enjoyed so much during the time that we were working together on a consistent basis was your creativity. You had this sense of courage around trying things that might be goofy, trying things that might not land, people might not get it. And yet you continued to say, I'm going to find a way. I'm going to find a way because what I remember was there was something in you kind of going back to your idea of positivity, same idea as like, I also sense there's a sense of, yeah, we're going to work really hard, but dang it, we're going to have fun doing this. I mean, if we cannot have fun, we're not on the right team. I sense that from you at your core. I want to explore that a little bit with our audience because some of the things you came up with were clearly hilarious. Some were inappropriate and some were just flat out deadpan. But you never quit. You just had this courage to say, okay, that didn't work. Let's try another one. Tell me how that feels as a leader, because folks out there listening today maybe need some courage when it comes into stepping into their creativity.
Yeah, for sure. Well, going back to 10-year-old kid Joe Bob, I was a huge fan of Sliced Alone and 80s hair metal. And so if you go back in that era, as those were some of my influences, it was all energy, all fun, action packed. I either wanted to be a lead guitarist, lead singer in a rock band, or an action actor. Didn't happen, obviously, but that honestly, creativity is a passion of mine. I think if I wasn't doing this, I could make a living. I'd be like a professional photographer. I love photography. You don't need to learn a musical instrument to do this. You need to have a camera to point and shoot. But I was like, I can also do this job, this in this mortgage space, but also I could bring my passion into it. And passion is the creativity. It's the branding of the videos that I do and the script writing, the producing, the acting. It's lights, camera, action, a lot of the stuff that we've done. And it's a blast. It's a great team building event. But yeah, I put myself out there. I really put myself out on a limb. Some of those have been great, some of them have been horrible. But I learned a lot in that process, and I had a damn good time doing it. But I think the biggest thing there is just dropping the ego.
Mm.
Like we all have a little bit of ego in this. You have to, right? Yeah, we all have that, no matter what space you're in. But where I put myself out there and people laugh or it's embarrassing, so what? Move on to the next one. Who cares? And own it. If you screw up, own it and don't hide from it. I think sometimes we feel like we have to hide behind our failures and then we never learn from it, but actually owning it and then people just move on from it, right? So I actually need to do another video. I've got a script I've written. It's just dedicating the time, the resources, and unfortunately, those videos are getting expensive because the bigger the product, I always want to do better than the last one. So the bigger the productions, the more the cost. But yeah, I do love the creativity piece, and I think that I would encourage any leaders out there that are finding maybe their job is boring, it's not fulfilling, is somehow blending in your passions within the branding, the marketing, or just your day-to-day activities. Bring your passions into the fold, and you can actually do both, right? And that way you don't feel like you ever achieved your childhood dreams. Like my childhood dream was to be like an actor. And if you see some of my videos, I am an actor. Granted, like I didn't get paid. It's not a Hollywood production, but if you watch it, I'm the star of the video. So I did it. I did it, Mom. But we had fun in the meantime. And so that would be my encouragement is somehow find a way to bring in your passions into the fold in your day to day or with your teams. And it makes it that much more fulfilling.
Okay, before I ask my next question, I need one example of one of these videos because I want our audience to understand you a little bit more than
Yeah,
than
yeah,
that.
sure.
So,
The most famous one is we reenacted the infamous Chris Farley Saturday Night Live Van Down by the River with Matt Foley, the motivational speaker. And where that happened was that back when I was in college, our nose tackle, he did the impersonation because at the time he was like a 300-pound guy, did the impersonation live at our football talent show. It had us all rolling. And then I ran into him at our 20-year reunion. And I said, hey, are you still doing that impersonation? He goes, man, he's like, the crazy thing is, he goes, now I'm like that age where I'm like, 40. He goes, I'm not divorced, but I'm 40, I'm old, I'm bald. He's like, I am like perfect for this role. I said, I got an idea for you. So he and I got together, and he's the lead pastor at a church here in Austin. We filmed it actually at a room at the church. And I made a fake balsa wood table that looked real. And he comes in, and we did the entire scene in one take, just like SNL live. He crashes the table. In the process, I thought he almost died. He actually hurt his neck doing it because he hit the ground so hard. But yeah, if you just look up, I could probably send you the link, but it's a Van Down by the River parody on YouTube. It actually kind of went semi-viral. I mean, if you in the mortgage space, if you can get 4,000 views on YouTube, that's pretty good, right? Without any promotion. So we do a lot of those just type of silly videos, and I blended it in with the mortgage space. So it was kind of instead of the dad was trying to, sorry, the motivational speaker was trying to convince him to like stay away from rehab. He was trying to convince him to be a better producer. So that's what it was.
So this then leads into my question. So in order to do those things, you do have to kind of put your ego aside and be like, okay, this may not turn out like I think, but I'm gonna have fun doing it. But also those relationships, like how many people can run into someone and be like, hey, I remember that impression. Can you do that again? And then they'll be like, absolutely, I'm in. So I think that points to your how you can get people on board with your passion. And that's definitely a unique skill that I think that you have. So I can imagine all these people wanting to, join in with that. But how do you get people to continue to get on your passion bus, let's call it? And then how do you continue to lead them, even if you're going 45 miles an hour and they might be going 10 miles an hour? So how do you keep that momentum going? Because I'm sure that there are times that you are taking off and people are like, wait, what's going on? What's going on? What's Joe
Yeah.
doing now?
Well, never underestimate the power of enthusiasm. In sales, a great salesperson is selling enthusiasm. And if you have a customer that's on the fence, enthusiasm can be the catalyst to convert that customer into a home buyer, right? And it's the same thing with some of these stupid projects that I do. Is I'm excited about it. I paint the picture, and you get the deer in the headlights look like, you want me to wear this and say that and have a script? Yeah, I do. And you're going to do great. And the next thing you know, they're on set and they're doing it and they nail it and they surprise themselves like, wow, I really can do this. But really, it's the enthusiasm piece because if you get excited about it, they will get excited about it. I'll never forget my linebackers coach in college was a speech major at Auburn, played football there, fought in the Vietnam War. The guy was just, I mean, he was a hard ass, if I'm being honest. And I didn't like the guy at first, to be honest with you. I really couldn't stand him. But then we built a relationship. And there was one day where I was watching film in his office. He let me use his office. And back when we had VHS, and I got the remote. I remember on his desk, he had like a glass tabletop, and he had slid a piece of paper underneath it, just one piece of paper. And all it said was, if you don't get up, don't expect them to get up. And I was like, what does that mean? And I realized that he would come into our meetings every single day, every practice with energy and enthusiasm, and just like he would bring his A game every time. I was like, that's what he's talking about. Is like if he comes into our meetings and he's lethargic and there's no energy and how's it going? Like we're going to be the exact same way. But if he comes in and he's fired up, he's going to naturally get us fired up as well. And that was a big takeaway for me. That was one lesson I learned from him was just if you bring the enthusiasm, your team will naturally rise to the occasion as well. So that was kind of my little tidbit on that piece of it.
So many good nuggets there. In fact, it's starting to make sense to me why the 10-year-old who loved his 80s hair metal was able to pull that thread through into his adult life. Because you're right, that music just oozes enthusiasm, and the characters that played those parts. I mean, they're real musicians. I'm not taking away from their musicality, but it was a lot of theater, a lot of stage energy. I mean, David Lee Roth was not really known for his vocals, but man, could that guy get the crowd going, and I see where that plays out. All right, Joe, let's fast forward. Our crowd that's listening might know you today as this leader within Movement Mortgage. We know it's a mission-driven company. I'm less interested in the corporate take on this. I really want to know more about you working for such a mission-driven organization and being a guy who brings that enthusiasm and that passion to your role. How are you able to combine those today? Because you guys do have a slightly different value proposition than other lenders in that space. What is it about being on a mission-driven team that really fires you up and helps you add new players to your team?
Well, I can tell you what it does for me personally, me, my family, my relationships, is that, Coach, I'm the happiest today than I have ever been in my entire career. And it is being part of that mission-driven purpose, is that for previous, from throughout my career, other companies, it's a lot of bottom line driven. It's like everything is focused on that net income line, everything revolves around that, and being part of a company that gives away money like it's candy to these charities, it's something that will change you, Coach. Just yesterday we had a meeting, and there's every quarter we give away $10,000 grants or gifts to local charities in our local markets, and we got 7 checks that we're giving out this quarter to throughout my entire 4-state region. And being part of an event where you're delivering a $10,000 check to a mom and pop's charity that's bootstrapping it,
Mm.
as they created that charity because something happened in their life that caused them to have that charity or to spawn it. And they're crying and you're crying. There's just nothing more impactful than that. And really, it brings purpose into your day to day. And really, you're focused on not just obviously your own personal income and providing for your family and making sure your team is providing for their family, but really it all comes together where what you're doing, what I've been doing my entire career is now giving back to those that we love and serve in the communities. And so it does bring a lot of just personal pride in that process. And this company attracts that type of persona that wants to do the same thing. Like when I go from town to town in my market and ask, what makes you love working part of this team? It's always the purpose-driven efforts of the company align with my own personal vision. And when you have a lot of teammates that are like that and love to give, love to serve, it really just makes my home life better because you bring home work. Wherever you work, you bring home your work with you, good, bad, neither. But when you're constantly bringing home positive messaging, positive stories, it has a positive impact on your life. And so I've felt that, Coach, since I've been here, and it has been life changing for me in all sincerity. And our CEO, I mean, if you're, as opposed to having a 50-foot yacht, and a house, somewhere in the Bahamas, some big mansion, he's driving a pickup truck and giving away half his fortune. I don't know anybody like him. So it's been very motivating, very encouraging. It's been a positive impact on my life.
Catherine, I think we named our podcast "Building Bigger Lives," and we had a vision for our podcast and a mission and a purpose as well. And part of that is to share stories of people's impact and influence that allows either them to live and build a bigger life or to inspire others to do that. Joe, you're doing both. You're living a big life and you are clearly inspiring others. Catherine, as we're winding down today, any final thoughts or questions for our friend Joe Bob?
Yeah, so one of my favorite questions to ask, and I think it's you're the perfect person to ask it to, is what do people not know about Joe Bob? Like I know you have this, you're a leader, people know a lot about you, but there's always those pieces that people don't know but you want them to know and you want them to be aware of when they're meeting you or talking to you. So what are those things that you want to make sure people are aware of about you?
Well, I'm not sure if I want them to know about it, but you asked the question, so I guess I'll tell you. Coming off as former football player, I work out a lot. I'm not like a skinny guy by any means, and I think I'm like a type A personality. I've been told I'm coming off. I can be intimidating at times, But really, I'm a very highly emotional person, meaning that like I tell my family how much I love them every single day. Um, I found, this is a simple example. I read a story about on Spotify, some band got 1 million followers and it wasn't even a real band. It was an AI generated band.
Yeah.
And so I asked AI, what app created that music? And I found it. And I was like, so I wrote love songs for all three of my children because you can actually type in their name and kind of tell a story and choose like certain chords. And it created some really good music as I'm listening to it. Like I'm actually tearing up. And I texted to my kids, and I don't think they were as impressed as I was. But I was like, now you have a song your dad wrote about you. I've
Hmm.
always wanted to be a musician. Here's the song I wrote about you, and you can enjoy this. And then, of course, my kids love to give me a hard time, sort of making fun of me. And then my wife jumped in, and I was going to save her song for last because I want to make sure it was perfect. And I said, you know what? You're making fun of me. Your song will be more Alanis Morissette than Kenny Rogers. But not, I'm a highly emotional person in terms of, I think it's just out of just pure love, and I'm not the type to watch a Hallmark movie and cry or anything, but I think it's just because I'm such a passionate person and I have a soft spot, especially for young children that are in need or hurting. My wife is a pediatric therapist that helps like these poor kids that, like she's making big changes in their life. And she comes home and tells me these stories. And I'm like, how do you do that? Like, I would be a mess working with those kids doing that. So, probably too much information about that, but it was something that I don't think most people know is that I have a huge heart with a big soft spot in there for a lot of different things.
Such a great way to finish. I'm just so glad that your answer wasn't telling her about the custom designed Christmas cards you've made over the years. We'll save that for a different episode.
Round
Um,
two.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. Joe, you're doing great things. It's so great to see you, to feel the energy even over the video. I know our audio audience will pick it up. Our video audience later on YouTube will get it as well. Thank you for joining us today and sharing a few of your stories. The beauty of every time I've hung out with you, there's never a shortage of them. And once again, you delivered the goods. So one take, you win.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate that. Thank you too, Catherine. It was good seeing y'all.
Thanks
All
for
right.
being here.
Yeah.
All right, with that, I'm going to get things closed out. You've been listening to Building Bigger Lives with myself and Michael Regan. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere you listen. Please listen, share, like, and thank you so much for joining us today.